Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming this evening. This is ReactJS Girls number 29, and it is our final ReactJS Girls meetup for 2024, which is super exciting. I'm Lauren. I'm the head of growth at YLD, and I will be your host for this evening. So who is ReactJS Girls? ReactJS Girls is a community that is built for community by community. And it's all about engaging software engineers and designers in meaningful talks and discussions about React.js. It's focused on women developers. ReactJS Girls aims and acts as a springboard to provide new opportunities and contacts for women to progress in their tech careers. So you can follow us on LinkedIn and X. We are at ReactJS Girls, and you can also use hashtag ReactJS Girls if you are interested. Right, so agenda for today. Ignore the timings because as everything goes, we are running late because tech's involved and we're in London and it snowed today. So of course, nothing's gonna work. Anyway, today we have 3 amazing talks. Super excited to have everybody on stage. And we have Jane, who's gonna talk to us about end-to-end testing. We've got Emma, who's gonna talk to us about how to be a better React reviewer. And then we've got Joe, who's going to talk to us about all things Deno. We will have a short break in the middle so you can eat more pizza. There is loads, so please definitely help yourselves and make the most of that. And then when we wrap everything up, there will be post-event networking for anybody who wants to down at the pub, which is just across from the entrance to Just Eat, and it's called The Conductor. It's hard to miss. A few reminders, code of contact, keep it clean, keep it friendly. We love this community because it is always so nice. So we really want to keep it that way. If you have questions for the speakers, please remember them and get ready to put your hands up at the end of each of their talks to ask your questions. Social media, you can follow us at ReactJS Girls on X. You can also follow YLD, who are the organizers, and just both the same names for that. We have one QR code to rule them all, so you can register your interest to be our next speaker. We love to welcome newbies. I myself am one of them. And look at how nice you guys are being to me. Thank you. You can learn more about YLD, about ReactJS Girls, our other events, anything that you would like. So please do check that out. A word from our organizer, YLD. So my name, as I've told you, but you've probably forgotten due to technical issues, is Lauren, and I will be your host today. So before we kick off tonight's talks, I'd like to take a moment to introduce YLD and share a bit about what we do and explain why community matters so much to us. YLD is a fast-growing software engineering, product design, and data science consultancy, and we work with companies across industries like publishing, healthcare, fintech, renewable energy, and more. Our mission is to leave clients better than we found them. And we do this by sharing our expertise, helping them develop future-proof skills, and building the capabilities that they need to succeed. Community is at the heart of what we do. And as new technologies and trends and solutions emerge, communities like this one provide a safe and encouraging space to share ideas, best practices, and creative ways to solve challenges. ReactJS Girls welcomes engineers at all levels, making it a space where everyone can learn from one another. Tonight's meetup offers a great opportunity for mentorship, whether you're sharing challenges from your work or passion projects or learning new ways to tackle issues. A community like ReactJS Girls was made for this kind of exchange where you can both offer guidance and learn from others' experiences. Community is important to us because it provides engineers like you with a platform to take the stage, build public speaking skills, and enhance your credibility. By sharing your insights, answering questions from the audience in the Q&A session, and engaging in discussions during the break or after the meetup, you not only help others, but establish yourself as a trusted voice in the industry. As we dive into tonight's talks, I encourage you to make the most of the community, as it's a chance to learn, share, and connect with new people in a supportive environment. And finally, we are always looking for talented people to join our team for both permanent and contract roles. You can find all of our open positions on the YLD website, and we've made it easy with a QR code, which you've seen a number of times, but is also there. So feel free to come chat to me at any point. Also Victoria, who is also our photographer tonight, and Mathis, who will hate this, but he is in a sweatshirt and he would also love to chat to you. A word from our sponsor, Just Eat Takeaway.
Thank you very much. So my name is Isabella Aston, and I'm a software engineer here at justeattakeaway.com. I've been here about 4 years now, and who is JustEatTakeaway.com? We have a global reach over 19 countries, and we offer a lot of choice. Our motto is empowering every convenience moment, and that is what we do. We've got 81 million active customers, over 13,000 employees from over 100 different nationalities, and we operate in over 20 offices worldwide. Our strategy, our vision, as I said, is empowering everyday convenience. And our strategy to do this is offering the best choice and value, focusing on people and planet to build a brand that our customers truly love, and using our experience and efficiency to make all that happen. All this is led by our core values of lead, deliver, and care. And talking about care, we've got many ERG communities at the company, Women in Tech being one of them, which is why I'm here today. I'm the UK lead of Women in Tech, and we're co-organizing this event. As you can see, we've got lots of other communities covering a range of topics, and this is always growing. For example, the Parents and Carers community was created last year. If you're interested in any roles, please do check out careers.justeattakeaway.com and have a look for us on our different socials, on Indeed, YouTube, all the social media sites. And there's a couple of us here tonight. So obviously I'm here if you want to ask any questions. We've got Michelle and Jess and Emma, who's one of our speakers tonight as well. So please reach out, and yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Isabella, and to the whole Just Eat team for hosting us tonight. Right, so up first, finally, the moment you've all been waiting for is our very first talk. We have Jane, who is talking all about exploring end-to-end testing, frameworks, demos, and best practices. Jane is a web developer at PayProp, and I am handing over to you, Jane.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing tonight? Great. So I'm Jane, as you already know, and today I'm going to be talking about end-to-end testing, and generally I'm just going to go through a few frameworks, demos, and best practices. So the key points is going to be, I'm going to just go through the whole testing spectrum, and then going to focus mostly on the end-to-end testing, more specifically tools comparison, and I'm going to have actually two demos which are hopefully going to work, Cypress and Playwright. Just so I understand the audience more, can you please raise your hands if someone ever worked with Cypress? Playwright? Both? Great. Thank you very much. So best practices for writing tests as well, and then I'm just gonna have like a quick slide about Cucumber framework and Gherkin syntax and the way it could help you while you're writing your tests and why is it great practice. And then I'm just also going to go through the tooling that you might want to use while writing your test, and that could help you write your test, because no one likes writing the test, but we should. So, oh, sorry. So why should we be writing tests? We should be ensuring the quality of the applications that we're running. We should provide a safety net. We should, if you support continuous integrations, that's also a great reason why you should be writing tests. The good point here, I would say, is writing tests could be a way of documenting different scenarios, which you would be able to see very clearly in the Cucumber example that I'm going to show you in the end. And just a little bit about testing spectrum. So first, we've got the manual testing, which most of you probably do, probably not day to day. And then we've got automated tests, which is leads us to this graph. So first we've got here unit testing, which is testing components, functions, modules, interaction in isolation from the rest of the application. Then snapshot testing is detecting UI changes or side effects that you might have. It's quite great to have snapshot testing because it's really easy to write it. And then when you migrate from one library to another, it sort of helps you out to detect these bugs, unintentional bugs, obviously. And then probably with dependencies as well, when you switch from one version to another, quite helpful. Then we've got accessibility testing to maintain this accessibility standards, make sure that your application is accessible for people with disabilities, quite an important aspect here. Performance testing as well, which helps you test responsiveness, load times, resource usage under different conditions. Component testing, rendering, state management, user interactions here, and then integration testing, one but not the last one, which involves testing the interactions between different units of code to ensure they work together as expected. And then it brings us to end-to-end testing, which is validating applications functionality, user flows, and this is the main point of my talk. So we're going to be focusing on end-to-end testing today. First of all, just a little bit of a fact here. So has anyone ever heard about the testing pyramid? Can you raise your hands? Okay, got a few people, cool. So the concept that has been introduced by Mike Koch, I hope I pronounced his name right. Sorry, Mike. This concept sort of represents the ideal effective testing strategy, proportional relationship between different kinds of tests. And originally it had it was represented as a pyramid where the base layer was your unit test, the second layer was integration tests, and then the top layer was end-to-end test. But now it developed, and now it has more of a diamond shape, and I think that shape is more like most likely to be adopted in, for example, your company or most of the companies, where the proportional representations of integration testing and end-to-end testing are equal, as you can see, but the base layer still stays as unit testing. Whether it's ideal or not, I mean, again, depends on your product, depends what your company has adopted, depends when your company has how the whole development has how the whole development of your company happened, and so some benefits of end-to-end testing. I think the most important fact in here is it ensures that IT deliverables align with business requirements, because essentially what we're doing with end-to-end testing, we're testing the user flows. And usually in your applications, you would have, like, say, a couple of the main user flows that you need to cover within your applications to make sure that it works as expected and make sure that the user is satisfied. So that will be your main scenarios that you would cover in your end-to-end testing. And obviously there are loads of benefits of it. And here we go, the tools comparison. So today I'm going to be more focusing on only Playwright and Cypress. And I've got the comparison by language, where basically I picked those two tools because essentially these are the most popular choices in recent years. Personally, I have been using Cypress quite a lot, and Playwright was more like a topic to talk about here. So we've got Cypress, which supports just JavaScript, and Playwright supports more languages. So depending on your application and what it built on, you might want to think about that. Then in terms of architecture, it's quite different, both of them. While Playwright has headless browser with event-driven architecture, and I think it uses event sockets in the background, Cypress has executes tests directly in a browser, which sometimes might be quicker, again, depending on your application and what sort of application you are developing. Then in terms of the browser support, from what I've gathered from the internet facts and from my own research, Playwright is more flexible in terms of the browser selection. It just has more browser support to offer, but Cypress is actually trying to catch up with the rest. For example, it recently introduced WebKit experimental support, but again, it's not full-on support. So depending on your app, you might want to think about that. Then in terms of support, genuinely like documentation and the community, Cypress has quite developed, strong community. Docs are great. You can find probably every single thing in the internet because it has been there for a while. But Playwright, it has more of a growing community, so it could take you longer to debug things because, you know, it's quite new, but you would most likely like come to the end in your debugging process and figure out what the issue was, just going to take longer. Then in terms of the real device support, we've got Playwright, which doesn't support real devices for mobile browser tests, but supports emulators, and Cypress, which supports real devices, cloud and remote servers. So you might want to think about that when, depending on your app requirements. So then genuinely, why Cypress, you ask me? So I think that Cypress is actually quite easy to set up, but it's not even in comparison to Playwright. They're both quite easy to set up, and you're going to see it in a second in my demos. So genuinely, Cypress is fast and reliable because, again, tests run directly in a browser, makes it quite a good opportunity for Java-centric applications, simple and nice. Real-time reloading, not sure how much of a deal breaker is it for you. I mean, it's nice that it does have it because, for example, Playwright doesn't. But I'm going to show you in comparison what it looks like, and I do think that Playwright handles it pretty well, even without real-time reloading. Then, unlike Playwright, Cypress automatically waits for commands and assertions to complete, and it reduces the need of you to write manually the wait statements. I mean, no one likes to write code as least as possible. Is the best. Keep it clean, but yeah, you're going to see again in a comparison in a second. And then we've got a few limitations for Cypress. It does support, I think, recently started supporting parallel test execution, but in Playwright it's more advanced because of the architecture, the way it has been set up originally, and then has quite a few limitations on advanced network handling, which I'm going to show you as well in my demo. And the key takeaway from here, I think, that Cypress is a great choice for simple single browser applications. Meanwhile, Playwright, why is it good? So it's more efficiently working in complex scenarios involving multiple pages, domains, and browser, because again, parallel testing there is better than in Cypress. Debugging options are more advanced, and I will showcase it in my demo. Useful for testing complex API or error handling, and has a few built-in essential features that you might need in your applications, which is, I mean, never bad. As well as few limitations here. We've got some features that might be experimental because, again, the community is developing on day-to-day basis, and you might want to think about that, whether you want to use this feature, or maybe this feature is just experimental and you don't want to use it and you want to just wait. A little bit of a time-consuming aspect here. It doesn't have real-time reloading, as I mentioned. Longer troubleshooting time because of the community. And often you can face issues with when dealing with complex, constantly changing DOM structures. Unlike in Cypress, because you run your tests directly in a browser, it's just faster because it doesn't use WebSockets to communicate with the browser. And the key takeaway is basically, I would use it if you got, if you need more coverage across multiple domains and pages, and maybe if you need specifically WebKit browser support, which is just experimental in Cypress, but Playwright got your back. So as a starting point of my demos, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to set up Cypress, and it's pretty much the same process as for Playwright. You've got, you just need to install your dependency here, and then you would run a command, and then for Cypress, it's going to open you a browser window, and it's going to show you this nice UI. It's going to say, okay, are you fine with me putting this files into your project? You say yes, continue, great. Then you choose between end-to-end testing or component testing, because Cypress supports both. In this particular demo, I'm going to be again focusing on end-to-end testing, so I've got this one configured in my demo. And then you would choose a browser. So in here for the browser, the default option on any computer will be Electron. But then if you got a few other browsers installed, for example, I've got installed Chrome, it's going to show me two options, as you would see in a second. And then you would go ahead and create your new spec, which is going to be your test. And here I encountered a few issues while I was setting up Cypress with TypeScript. It does have quite good documentation on it, but again, you need to Google it because it doesn't come out of the box, this Cypress configuration situation. So yeah, it does have great support, and it's quite easy. It was quite easy to fix, literally a deal of 5 minutes, I would say. And then a live demo. Sorry, I'm just gonna try doing it with one hand. Correct. So I'm just going to give you the link to it later, but essentially what I've done here, I've got two folders, one for demoing Cypress and Playwright. Both folders has a simple setup for React TypeScript project. And then I'm just going to showcase Cypress first, since I was just talking about it. So first you would just need to run a server, an app server. So I can see my application is running. It's quite a simple one. I've just got a paragraph, and then there is a link. Oh, what happened there? I'm not sure whether it's the internet, but the link should be going somewhere. And then I would run, after running an app server, you would run yarn Cypress open. And that's, again, going to open this window. It says configured here because I have done it before. You would choose a browser. I prefer to use Chrome. And then you can see your specs in here. I just got one spec. You would press run to your spec, and then it's going to run your tests that I've written, hopefully. Oh, it looks like I don't have internet. Maybe I can just connect to my hotspot. Sorry for that. It does say connect. Here we go. Yay. So yeah, in here you can basically see the details of your tests, the way it runs, the timeline. You can click through it, see what's actually happening or when you click onto each of these. Then it has some more tools in here, but I didn't connect to my Cypress Cloud in here because it's not my work laptop. But yeah, you can do some more, you can access some more advanced features in there. But and then I'm gonna just show you how it looks code-wise. So originally, when I ran this yarn Cypress open the first time, it inserted into my project the Cypress folder that had a few like files which I repurposed for my tests. So the syntax is quite easy. You got your Cy object, and then you call your methods on the site object, and here I'm just visiting my home page. I'm checking whether within my page there is this text and whether this text is visible, and then I'm checking whether my URL links to the right place. Then I click into my URL, and then I check whether this, when I clicked onto this URL, my page loads. Again, you shouldn't be doing it, and I just done it for the purpose of that demo, because I don't control this domain, and you shouldn't be checking the load of other resources when you test your application. And I've got Cypress config in here. It does have quite a few options, but the most basic stuff that I've done here is basically just putting in the base URL. And this is specifically why I call just site visit dash. Essentially what's doing on the background calls the localhost 3000. And now I'm just going to stop my server, my app server here. And I'm going to go to my other folder, which is the Playwright demo. I'm going to run it in the UI mode. You can run both, by the way, in either UI or terminal, wherever you prefer. So this is how Playwright looks like. Once it's loaded, I would be able to run my test. So I would click play in here. The tests are very similar, by the way, for both projects. They're basically doing the same thing, but this is just on purpose to compare both. So you can go through, first you've got the timeline here, which is quite nice to see what's going on in your test. And then you've got some advanced debugging options that I was talking about previously. You've got the console, you've got the errors, network, all of these things that I personally haven't seen in Cypress. Maybe not hidden somewhere that I don't know about it. And then you can obviously switch between different browsers and test it there. And yeah, so let's have a look at the code. So you've got your Playwright config TS, and maybe you have noticed that I didn't run my app server beforehand on this particular one, unlike Cypress, because it has an option in their config to do it, while in Cypress you would need to probably do some tweaks around package.json in order to make it work with only one command. And then the test, I mean, it's really similar to Cypress, apart from this await statements that I don't personally like, but I mean, not a deal breaker really. Very similar, both of them, and I'm checking for the same thing. I'm checking for the link, I'm checking for the paragraph, and I'm clicking on this link, and I'm checking whether the page loads. So yeah, these are the demos, and I'm just gonna switch back to my presentation. So best practices genuinely for writing any test, I would say, is early involvement of QA, which probably most of you understand that it's always good to involve QA early on if you have the right resources. Then foster collaboration between teams. Use realistic test data. Sometimes could be quite hard to test, like, you know, you've written your test and then the test doesn't really match, the test data doesn't really match the real data, and it could give you not accurate results. Then automation, where possible, always saves you time and effort later on, and great practice. Regular maintenance, which no one likes to do, but we should. Then specifically from the developer perspective, you would like to test user journeys, not internal implementation. Sometimes could be quite hard when you were the one who was writing this test, but maybe you can collaborate with your QA team, with your testing team, and it was going to make the process easier. Keep tests independent and isolated, write clear descriptive test names, mark a stub, external services. That's, I think, one of the important ones. You don't want to be calling external service directly in your tests. So if you do, please do fix it. Test responsiveness and cross-browser compatibility. is always a good practice, and use visual regression testing to catch these UI bugs that no one likes to encounter. Document test and testing strategy to just keep the team aligned on this aspects. And then just a few slides regarding the Cucumber framework that I mentioned in my second slide, I think. So how does your test can serve you as documentation? So Cucumber is actually a good example for it, because essentially what it's doing, you're writing test specifications and step definitions, so in here I've got an example of a Cucumber, using a Cucumber framework. On the left is a feature file where essentially it's a plain text, which also called Gherkin syntax, and on the right is a feature file. And as you can see, in here you've got like quite specific, you describe a feature, you describe a scenario, you have given, you have when, and you have then. And on the right, it just correlates to the step definitions for each. And this is where you would be calling your commands, writing your test as usual. And this feature file, you can be even if you're collaborating with stakeholders or someone else, you could be writing it directly on a call. It's quite good, in my opinion. And then if you need some help writing tests, I personally use these two tools. Blackbox is an AI tool, and Copilot is also an AI tool. Copilot is backed by GitHub, which is always great. Everyone knows GitHub. You do need license. There is like a 30-day free trial in there, but I do have a few colleagues who just pay for it themselves if they can't make the company pay. But yeah, Blackbox is a free tool, and maybe if I have time, someone can wave at me and say, no, okay, I don't have time. Sorry, so I can't showcase it. But yeah, in here I've got the QR code for my demos. So if you want to check it out, please feel free. Thank you. And questions?
Does it? Yes, it works. Any questions for Jane? I have a question, Jane. Which do you prefer between Playwright and Cypress?
I would say I work mainly with Cypress, and at work day to day we use Cypress. But Playwright seems like a good option, to be honest, especially since the community is developing day to day. So I would definitely check out both and decide whatever you prefer and what's your application requirements and what. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Any other questions for Jane? Yes, I can throw this, but that feels dangerous.
Sometimes they come out the top.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Cucumber, has some integration with Playwright as well. I think you showed the Cypress. Yeah,
it does. Yes. Yeah. I specifically just put Cypress in here just because I was using it previously. In fact, I did check. I just can't name you the name of the dependency that would do it for Playwright, but maybe it's called something like this, but it does. Yes.
cool. Thanks.
100%. Cool.
Any other questions? We probably have time for one more.
Okay.
No? Thank you. Everybody, round of
Thank
applause for
you.
Jane. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you again, Jane. Right. We have our next speaker is up. We've got Emma on how to be a better React code reviewer. Emma is an associate full stack engineer at justeattakeaway.com.
Thanks everyone. Okay. Let me just see if I'm gonna have Wi-Fi issues now. Also, can everyone hear me at the back as well? Okay, cool. I'll try to not shout at everyone because I'm a naturally loud speaker. Present, right, Isabella? Yeah, okay. Okay, bear with me. One sec, I think I got it. show speaker notes. Okay, but you can't see them, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, hi everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name's Emma. Like Lauren said, I'm a full stack associate developer at Just Eat, and welcome to How to Be a Better React.js Code Reviewer. So first, a little bit about me. Who am I? So my name's Emma. I am a passionate React, but Java as well in the backend developer, also using GraphQL and a few other technologies. So about me, yeah, I work at Just Eat. Comes with a lot of great perks like free food. Just a little shout out for Just Eat. I'm originally from Toronto in Canada. I actually originally did my undergraduate degree in art history at McGill in Montreal. So I'm not a natural born developer, but I also have dual citizenship, which is why I'm here today. And you're like, why am I telling you this? Like, why am I talking about myself? Like, I'm not all about myself. I'm telling you because I'm not a natural born developer. So I did a coding boot camp. I have like an unconventional path. I have a different background. So coming into this, I honestly wasn't sure if I should have known about how to do code reviews because it was never taught to me. I didn't do a computer science degree. I don't know if others did and if it was taught. So I want to get other people's feedback. This is going to be very interactive. I'm not going to call people out, but please talk if you want. So I'm going to say or ask you guys, how do you start your code review in React or just in general? It doesn't have to be React. So what's the first thing you do when you're doing a code review? So that could be like, Yeah, locally? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's another take. Anyone else have any other steps that they do? Or as everyone? Yeah, so get greater context. That's a great point. I love that. Yeah, so these are all really good points. Anything else? Anyone else to add? If not, we can move ahead. Okay. So first, before we dig into how to be a better React.js code reviewer, let's get some info before we begin. So why are code reviews so important? So first of all, they ensure consistency. They increase security. They share team knowledge. They identify logical problems. And they catch any remaining errors. So these are all really general. These are not really specific. As you notice, we're going to go from more of a general code review approach to more like specific into React. So what is the goal of a code review? So I didn't learn any of this. Like I said, this is kind of stuff I learned along the way, or I've had mentors tell me. So these are kind of some of the tips that I'm going to share with you guys. So what is the goal of a code review? First of all, it's to mentor. That might not be an obvious kind of approach at first, but you're meant to like learn from this type of experience. So mentor less experienced developers and improve their code quality, but also while making you more aware of things that you're supposed to recognize in your code day to day. So it's to showcase changes to the project, enabling other developers to stay informed about React developments, to provide feedback and share knowledge with other teammates, make it like a fluid discussion, not just, you putting 80 comments on someone's code review. To establish a solid understanding of React principles among team members, and then to encourage discussion around code quality and alternative solutions, and to identify bugs and create a robust code base, which I feel like is the most obvious one. Like you're looking for errors in the code to kind of improve and make it more robust. So these are some kind of good points there. And then goal. Okay, so general code review documentation. This is what I was kind of taught going in. I was like, where am I supposed to look? Like, what is some documentation? As a developer, you're like constantly looking for new documentation. So one of my mentors directed me to the most obvious one, or the most well-known one, which is Google. Google has a lot of good documentation, always for everything. They're kind of like set the standard in most topics for engineering. So theirs is linked here, engineering practices in this webpage. They do the standard of code review and what to look for in a code review. Kind of pointed out the most important point here, which is in general, reviewers should favor approving a command or a change list, which is CL. That's their terminology. A change list, once it is in a state where it is definitely improves the overall code health of the system being worked on, even if the change list isn't perfect. So overall, it should benefit the code health, which is what Google is saying. Kind of a very generic and general set of guidelines, very open for not improvement, but also like, I'm losing the word now, but so yeah, then also GitHub has some documentation where some other engineers have kind of given their opinion. So some staff engineers at GitHub saying kind of what their approach is. So not really one source of data for kind of where to get your code reviews and where to get your code review knowledge from. And then also Medium. I think if you're working the coding industry or engineering industry, you're familiar with Medium. A lot of different people in the industry giving their opinion, but again, not really all one point of view. So these may seem obvious, but before you push your code, before you even get into a code review, make sure you're doing these things. I mean, maybe they're not obvious, but just FYI. So the first thing you want to do is lint the code. So people use many different linters, but it's really code specific, but you want to lint your code. Then you want to write your tests, which is what Jane just lovely talked about. But depending on your project, if it's a personal project, you may not be writing tests, but if it's in an office, you're probably going to be writing tests. So the next logical step. Then you want to check the code yourself. I mean, this one should be a given. You should read your code, kind of simplify it and put it into logic where it's like, you can say it to someone else what's happening because you don't want your code to be over-engineered at the same time. Next, you want to describe what the change is in the PR. So kind of just going off of that as well. But you want to put that on the PR as well. And then this is kind of like up to opinion. You want to take screenshots of the changes and either put them on the PR. I know at my previous company, we did this, but here we don't do it so much. I think it just depends on the team. So, and then a top tip is to avoid pushing large file PRs. So this is again down to the company, but I think just general kind of courtesy is don't push like a 100 file change PR. Even if you're just changing formatting, it's still good to break it down and put it into sections. So, I feel like a lot of people don't want to review a code or a PR that has like 100 files. It's quite heavy for everyone involved. So try to break it down and make it more biteable for everyone. No, I said push it. A lot of gifs in this, sorry. Okay, now let's get into the actual React bit, why we're all here. So let's begin with the basics. How do you begin your review? So this is kind of what I was getting some input on earlier. So you can use it in GitHub in your browser, or you can check it out in your IDE, or you can also, like we were saying as well, get some initial background knowledge on what the ticket's about. So here, I know a few people on my team that initially review it in GitHub. So that's just in the PR format. So just kind of some things I've said about viewing it in GitHub. You can't run your tests. You can't use built-ins. It's easier to add comments as you go, though. So if you're seeing like some logic, you can actively make a comment on it. And you can also focus on the logic. It's in like black and white. There's no linting happening. There's no special effects. It's like pretty not fussy. But whereas in the IDE, you can run your tasks, you have built-in help, like linters, and you can check if it runs without errors. So I honestly use both of them. So I think a few other people in the audience were saying they're both running in conjunction with one another. But I know a few people who only did GitHub originally. So I think it's just open for discussion. And then kind of just showing you what the two visuals kind of look like here. So unfussy GitHub. Regular PR review. Maybe we've all seen this. Then just checking out the PR on your IDE looks something like that. Or checking out the branch. Okay, so kind of to speak about this. So in code reviews, it's kind of broken down into three major categories. So we have minor issues, which we're going to go into. And then we have major issues, and then we have like nitpicking issues. So those are like more personal preference, which we will discuss. But I feel like this is something that I didn't learn personally, but it's good to, or at least it's good for me to break it down into different categories to kind of approach my review. If not, it becomes kind of overwhelming. Like, what am I looking for? So easy spots in reviewing minor. So what is a minor React code review comment? So typically it's small improvements that make the code more reusable and future-proof, but they don't change the overall logic or functionality of the actual feature. So the best way to spot these is using a linter, running tests if applicable, having extensions in the IDE, like in IntelliJ, checking for unused imports, and then just general familiarity over time. So I feel like now, because I've been doing this a while, I just consistently go look at my imports or someone else's imports, and I'm like, okay, I can tell they're not using this. And I can even just notice that on GitHub before I get started. So in my initial like preview on GitHub, I'm like, okay, this isn't being used. We can get rid of this, and they'll comment that out. So examples of these would be unused imports in code, confusing names, component structures, and React more, state and props handling, and hooks best practice. So live coding, I was a little scared about it working, so I've just attached screenshots for everything because I was worried about some lagging. Okay, so the point of this exercise is not necessarily like a live demo. It's more, I just want to know where people look when they're initially approaching a code review. So it's, why did it just get really light in here? Okay. I have to get sunglasses on. Okay. Yeah. So basically what I want is just to understand people's thought processes and see initially, like, it's not to catch every issue. It's just to understand and make it interactive and hear like what people would first catch when they look at this. So here in this bit of code, we're only looking at minor general issues. There's like a handful that exist in here, but I'm just curious to see if people can catch some of them because this is just a small basic snippet of code.
Yeah, Axios has not been used.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else about Axios?
The spelling.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, perfect. Anyone else? It's kind of tricky, honestly. Like, unless you actually kind of have it up in an IDE, I found it kind of hard. Yeah, Jess. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Not a good naming convention. No. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. What else about the header? Yeah, that's great. It's not imported. Anyone else? Yeah.
Like formatting the indentation.
Yeah, that's also a good one. Formatting is really important, actually. I always get commented that when people are my PR reviews, and I was like, oh wait, I actually don't have a formatter on in my back end. So that was the issue. That's a good one. I think we've kind of captured most of them. I think there was like around 5 or 6, but again, it's not about the actual amount. It's just about being alert and kind of seeing what to look out for here. But I'll move on if not. So basically, yeah, forgot I had that. There's a lag and I've added a lot of animations. So I'm just going to go through them all now. This is just kind of highlighting all the issues. So yeah, we kind of captured most of them there. My comp wasn't good. Good naming convention. Axios, yep, typos in the package name. Is this package used in the code? We didn't get the Bootstrap one, but it's not. I found this was difficult because I'm like, oh, we're not actually seeing it being highlighted in the IDE, which is what we're typically used to. So like usually Bootstrap would be kind of grayish, but I don't know. It didn't pick up that well on Code Sandbox. So yeah, and then we're missing import for the header. It also doesn't contain anything, unclear prop name, and then incorrect React DOM usage. So those are kind of just some minor changes or like minor comments that you could comment on your code review or someone else's code review. And that is what it would look like cleaned up. So that is some clean code. Don't think we need to focus on it that long. Okay, so I just put another little minor one, but this is more kind of more complex React kind of lingo in here, or just more complex React happening. So this one's a bit more challenging. Again, hard because you're not looking at it in an IDE, which is what I'm gonna admit is a hard part for me. But initially, does anyone have any catches here? You might need a second, so I'll give it to you. Yeah. I guess it does. Yeah, kind of say it there as well. Yeah. Direct state mutation. Oh yeah, I think I left these ones on because I was like, this one's just meant to be a kind of quicker one that I just wanted to review. So mutating state directly, fetch data is a missing dependency in the dependency array, an efficient and inline function, and then continued over here, should be self-closing, footer component, props are not deconstructed, no default value. So a little bit more complex. React, just as a call out, React can be kind of confusing to follow. I know, like especially I've worked a lot recently in like Java and backend, and I definitely found it a bit less complex than working in React. I find state management to be quite a bit complex. So just even keeping an eye on the, like, just putting all your const for your states at the beginning is even just an important one. Like having organized code is a really good call out as well in React. Well, it should be in anywhere, but in React as well. Okay, and that is just the clean code. Okay. Now moving on to major issues. Major issues are what I personally struggle with the most calling out in other people's code. I think this is something, honestly, you learn with time and like time in a project, time as a developer. It's okay to not be able to call out major issues. I find myself pulling back on a project when I'm like a new developer. Like at Just Eat, I feel like I wasn't confident to really contribute major issue call outs until like this month. And I've worked here for 5-6 months. So it can be complex. So what is a major issue? So a major issue is a code breaking improvement that can have a huge impact on the code, can break the rest of the React app and cause future regression issues. So these are pretty big. The other ones were just like, okay, it's a bit messy. It's not how we'd like it. So the best way to spot these issues is to check out the branch, like we said, get it in the IDE, understand the code base and have larger context, but put your PR into simple and logic terms. So you should be able to kind of explain the bit of code back, and that would help with the logic a bit more in calling out, like, does this make sense? Or is this kind of like illogical or over-engineered code? So examples of these would be performance issues, security concerns, error handling, prop drilling, React specific, test or lack thereof, state management, and over or under engineering. Nested if statements, I think, is also kind of like a good call out. So a more detailed checklist of errors is continued. So a checklist I've kind of put together, which I can link after, for spotting major issues. This is kind of what I keep up. I have like a little, I use Notion for my development every day. I think it's a really fancy UI tool, which helps me make good app or good notes. So I kind of have this by me when I'm coding, or going over reviews as well. So my checklist for spotting major issues is first in components. Does the component follow the single responsibility principle? And is the component properly abstracted and reusable? So if I can kind of follow those, then I'm like, okay, this is fine. Then moving on to state, is state scoped correctly, local versus global, and are derived or computed values unnecessarily stored as state? Because once you kind of lose track of your state, it becomes like spaghetti code. It becomes very confusing. Performance. Are there any avoidable re-renders? Is list rendering optimized? Virtualization, proper key props. Hooks. Are hooks used correctly? Dependencies, order, and rules. Are custom hooks implemented correctly? Code quality. Is the code readable and maintainable? Are there any hard-coded values? Is error handling implemented correctly? So I find with React, because you have a lot of freedom and because you can like make your own names and everything, it leads to a lot of miscommunication. I feel like there's more room for error because of that. So I find code reviews in React actually to be more essential than ever, because you need to always be on top of your variable names, your state management, and everything else. I don't know if others feel the same way, but so now we're going to go over a major example. We're just going to go kind of over one here because it's a bit more in depth. So can anyone kind of spot any issues with this? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, this is a bit harder, so maybe you kind of have to look at it. Yeah.
Set loading to true, it would never be or it should be in the use effect.
Yeah, the use effects are honestly a bit not good. So it's a good spot.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the use effects are not good here. So this is not good code. Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's a good call out. I'm going to pull up the next slide. We kind of have the problems spotted out here. So yeah. Also, we shouldn't be rendering large lists without virtualization. Index is a key, which is what we noted. Fetch users should be included as a dependency. There's also no error handling in this code, which is really important in React as well. And yeah, we're missing dependencies in use effect. And is Axios used in this? I actually don't know if it is. I forget, but that's like a more of a minor one. But yeah, those are kind of the big issues. So I think, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes here. Yep, state initialization. Okay. And then here we're going to look at the cleaned up code. So here it's a bit more complex. We see our error handling there as well, which is great. Should always put error handling. Sorry, I say error, very Americanized. It sounds like air. I mean, error handling. That's always really good to have as well. So you're catching all your issues. So you hear that you can wrap the API call in a callback. So we can see use callback being imported up here and being used. And then we're resetting our error state here, which is always important to do. And then adding fetch users to the dependency array. And then using a stable unique key for the other issue we called out. And then we're handling the empty state there as well, which is what we also called out. So the benefits of this are kind of like, I think they are mostly obvious, but just to kind of sum it up, we have a more robust code now. So it handles edge cases like empty data, errors, and loading states more gracefully, but it's also better performance. So ensures stable keys and prevents unnecessary re-renders by memorizing fetch users. It's very user-friendly. It provides clear feedback to users for errors and empty results, and it's maintainable. It's easy to read, to debug, and to extend if we need to use this. Again, we should be writing code that's easy to kind of use for future developers to come and read, because, you know, not everyone can read your code if it doesn't have great variable names and you lose track of your state. So that's kind of, and then we're going on to, this is kind of lesser significance, but still important. So NIT issues. I've experienced a lot of these as a junior developer. Sometimes like 50 comments of like a senior developer being like NIT. And it's like, okay, how can I avoid these going forward? So what is NIT for some people who maybe aren't familiar? So they're extremely minor improvements that are subjective to personal preference or the team. They're but mainly non-blocking and focused on quality. So we can usually spot them over time. They're kind of out of habit, personal preference. They lack consistency, example naming, and readability. So an example of that would be variable naming, consistent quotation marks, code formatting, or commented out code. Kind of all really obvious ones that we should already be looking out for. But I wanted to include this because I've had, like I said, was telling when I have a senior developer leaving a lot of comments. If you are going to make a NIT comment, please make sure to explain your thoughts, because if you're a junior developer, you're like, oh my God, why does this person hate me? Why am I getting like 50 comments about this? It's like, they don't hate you. They're just like telling you their experience. But sometimes they could also explain their thoughts a bit better as to why they have developed that preference. So it's always a learning experience for everyone involved. So a NIT example, very simple, very general. So here, what are some issues with this? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we don't need all of this. We could get rid of this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Would not use that. Yeah. Is that what you were going to say as well? Okay. Yeah, perfect. Those were the main ones. And then I think I put formatting here as well as another one, but those were the three. Yeah, so we can see here, this is what the clean code looks like. A lot better, a lot less messy, a lot easier to read. But again, if you're going to say a comment like that, just make sure to explain it to others and explain your thought process there. So that's it. Does anyone have any other questions or any quick questions? No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go on.
So I spotted, and I realize this is sort of a, I guess, personal preference, but I spotted in cleaned up code you had a few slides ago, you had a ternary operator, and I was just wondering what your preference for reviewing that, because I mean, I look at that and I don't find it immediately legible, and I would prefer a sort of written out if statement that explains sort of what is happening here.
Yeah, personally, I feel like I do ternaries, but like that's just, I don't know if that's personal preference or if that's like good code. I don't know, but I also would, if my mentor was like, hey, or my senior was like, hey, I would prefer an if statement there, I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. It's fine. It's more in line. I think it really comes down to if it's in line with your code base. Are you doing stuff like this, or are you not doing stuff like this? You're doing that, the if statement. So that's a really good call out. Thank you. That's
I think I have more like of a comment on the minor issues. Minor issues, the ones you had in your slide there, I think most of them could be just fixed with your, if you set up your editor correctly and if you like format unsafe and things like that. And I don't know if you agree, but I think when you work within the team or even on the project, genuinely, this rules should be set up within like, you know, wider rules. Yeah. So most of them would be able to be solved with unsafe configuration, basically.
Exactly.
I don't know if you agree.
No, sorry, I was waiting for you to. Sorry. Yeah, okay, perfect. No, I do agree. We're actually having this debate on my team right now, where in the back end we basically don't have any unsafe formatting, and it's like causing a huge problem because everyone has such different formatting and styling and everything. It's quite awful. So this could easily be solved with an on-save formatter, just like something in the pipeline that could easily pick up on these issues, which is why I kind of called that out in the beginning, how if you have a linter or if you're doing a personal project, you can kind of catch a lot of these things. But that's a great idea for projects and stuff like that as well. Anything else? That's it. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Passing in the back.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was amazing. Hopefully everybody found that valuable. We are going to go to a quick break. Miraculously, we are only 5 minutes behind schedule. So if we can have everybody go out, grab some pizza, top up your drinks, you've got 10 minutes, and then we'll call you back in here for our final talk. Amazing. Thank you guys for eating more pizza, drinking more drinks. Thank you to everyone who has stayed. We really appreciate it. We have our final talk of the evening. So I'm going to welcome on stage Joe, who is going to talk about Deno-mite, making your dev experience delightful. And Joe is a developer advocate at Deno. So I'm really excited to hear what she's talking about. I know lots of people are excited about Deno in general at the moment. There's stickers around, and I know she's got more. So if you need stickers in your life, Joe can help. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me this evening. But before I get started, who here has actually heard of Deno before? Okay, so we've got a few people. And who's actually built something with Deno? And I suppose I don't need to ask the question, who's using Deno in production, because nobody has built anything. But I think you'd all actually be surprised, because Deno actually powers Netlify's serverless functions. So you may actually be using Deno in production without realizing it. But if you've not heard of us, Deno is an open source JavaScript runtime. It was written by the guy who originally wrote Node, but he wrote it 10 years after having written Node, with a whole load of experience from having written Node. And it's written in Rust, so it's super fast. And it comes with a whole load of tools built in, which I think, leading on from our last talk where we were talking about linting and formatting, you're going to find really interesting. And whenever I mention Deno to developers, I regularly get the same response that I had here, like, oh yeah, I've heard of Deno, like, that's really cool, but yeah, I've been meaning to check it out, but I haven't had time. And like, that's a really lovely sentiment, but it does not help my OKRs. So while I have a captive audience here, I'm going to actually give you the gift of time to have a look at what Deno is and see if you love it. So we're going to actually start right from scratch. I have a completely clean machine here. Deno is not installed yet. Nothing is installed. So the first thing that we need to do is actually get Deno installed. So if we go to the Deno docs, which I have been pouring my heart and soul into for the last 6 months. So if you do end up using Deno and you end up using the docs, please give me feedback about what you would like to see. But if we go to the runtime manual here, we can see we've got a bunch of different options for commands for how to install Deno. I'm on Windows, so I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to open up my terminal, and we're going to see if the Wi-Fi is our friend today or not. Okay, so while that is installing, I'm just going to give you well, that was super fast. So good. I was going to give you a little demonstration of how easy Deno is to install. So this photo here is actually showing Deno running on it's a Samsung Galaxy Fold phone. which is using DeX. So you can like plug your phone into a keyboard and a monitor. So it's running on ARM with VS Code, which has been side-loaded in Prot Ubuntu, which is running in a Tmux terminal emulator. So if we can do that, we can certainly install it on this very powerful Windows machine. So let's open up our terminal and just make sure that we have Deno installed. So we'll do Deno -v, and that should tell us, yeah, we've got Deno installed. Awesome. So I'm going to show you some of the tooling that Deno has built in, and then we'll have a look at running your React projects, your next projects, the stuff that you all know and love. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic project. And Deno has a tool to do this for you. So we're just going to say Deno init, and what should we call it? React Girls. And that's going to make a React Girls project for me. Can you all read that, or shall I zoom in a bit? It's okay?
Maybe
A tiny bit?
Yeah, thank you.
And then it said to me, I need to cd into the project and then run the project. So if I do cd React Girls, and then I do code, open it up here. So this is what Deno has created for us. It's given us a main.ts file, which is the entry point to this new project. This is where you can write your TypeScript. It has set us up with a main test.ts file. So any tests that you write, you can give a name of _test or .test, and those will be picked up by the Deno test runner. So let's have an actual look at what is happening in this main. So you might notice here we've got a red squiggly, and that is because VS Code at the moment doesn't know anything about Deno. So the way we can help it out is we can install the Deno extension. So let's get that installed. And what that is going to do is that is going to give you all of the autocomplete tools that you know and love. So this is going to give you your type hinting. It's going to give you your auto suggest. It's going to tell you all about what is available to you in the Deno API. So if we go back now into our main.ts, you can see that red squiggly is gone. And if I do Deno.something, I get all of these auto-suggested things. So these are all things that are available on the Deno API. And yeah, so this is our main.ts. It's just a very basic add function, and we can run it using the Deno run command. So I can say Deno run main.ts, and we'll see the output. Like these are things that you should recognize from Node. It's very similar to your Node runtime. The run command is exactly the same, in fact. Let's just have a brief look at our test here. So we can see that we haven't yet installed. So if we run Deno install, it'll install that dependency for us. And now we can run Deno test. And it's run our test for us. So we haven't had to install a test runner. We haven't had to install any kind of test framework. This just all comes with Deno out the box. So you can start writing tests immediately. We've already spoken today about how important testing is, and Deno really, really wants you to be writing tests for your JavaScript. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to add tests. And if we could change this test, we can see it fail. So let's just try that. Cool. So, it works the way you would expect it to. And speaking of expect, if you are expecting a more jest-like way of writing tests, you absolutely can do that. So Deno comes with a standard library. And the standard library is just a collection of modules that you will find yourself using over and over again as you're writing your code. And a lot of languages come with a standard library. For some reason, JavaScript does not. but Deno provides a standard library for all of these modules that you will find yourself using. So assert is one of them, and expect is also one of them. So I could do here Deno install JSR std being a standard library, expect, and that's going to install that expect package, and then we can import it. So I'm just going to, here's one I made earlier. There we go. So if you want that more jest-like way of writing tests, you absolutely can do that instead. And if we run this test, it should work as we expect it to. So the final file in here that we haven't spoken about is this Deno.json file. And again, for those of you who are coming from Node, this should look very similar to your package.json. So we have this idea of tasks, which are similar to your scripts in your package.json. And we have this idea of imports, which are very similar to your dependencies in your package.json. And you can see I added that expect import, so it has now been added into our package.json, into our Deno.json, sorry. And you can then import it into your TypeScript or your JavaScript files. You will also, I hope, have noticed that we're writing TypeScript here. Deno supports TypeScript out the box. We don't need to install TSC. We don't need to do a whole set of options for how you want to compile your TypeScript. It's all just, again, built into the runtime. And these are absolutely configurable. You can change the configuration for your compiler options in your Deno.json if you want to. But for the majority of projects, the basic TSC setup is what you will need, and that's what's baked into Deno. So far, we have a test runner that is built in. We have our TypeScript compiler that is built in. We haven't had to install anything extra yet. And I've spoken a little bit about the standard library. Let's just have a look at so if we go to the JSR website, and JSR is a package registry. So you can think of it a little bit like NPM. It's a place where you can go to get packages, but these are all packages that are written in modern JavaScript and TypeScript. So if we search for standard library, so you can see here, these are all of the things that come in the Deno standard library. And these are modules that have been vetted by the Deno devs, so they're guaranteed to work. They're guaranteed to be fast. Some of them are written in native code, so they will run super fast in the runtime. Another thing that you might notice, I did that installation of the assert in the expect, but we've not got any sort of modules folder here in our directory. So in your Node projects, you're used to seeing a Node modules folder. Deno doesn't do that. We have a global cache for our dependencies. So this means that across projects, you can use the same dependencies. So you're not installing dependencies per project, which makes first of all, it makes your project folders just a lot neater. We're not filling them up with configuration files. We're not filling them up with Node modules folders. It means that installation across multiple projects is a lot faster because you already have the dependencies downloaded in that global cache. I personally think it's just a nicer developer experience. Like this project folder just looks nice and neat. So let's talk about some of the other tools that come out of the box with Deno. So we spoke earlier about linting and how useful it is to have tools for what you want your code to look like and what shape you would like it to be. So let's say you've been adding things to this function, you've been working on it, you forgot that you'd added something and then removed it. So let's say we're adding an extra number in here. our linter that we get for free with the Deno VS Code extension is now going to tell us you've declared this variable, but you've never used it. So we're getting those hints immediately, which is just going to help keep our code nice and neat. Again, we didn't have to install anything. We didn't have to configure anything. This just comes out of the box. And I can run, so I get that hint in my editor because I'm in VS Code and I have the VS Code extension installed. But I could also do this. So I could run Deno lint. And it's going to give me the same instruction. So these tools are really useful because you can hook them into your CI pipeline. And so now when you make a commit, you could say, you've made a mistake here, or when you're trying to do a merge, you could maybe have a rule that says that you're not allowed to merge this until it's been linted correctly. Like, these are super helpful. So let's get rid of that. Why am I getting feedback? Is it because it's coming from here as well? I'm going to put that down there. Okay, and then if you want to know what lint rules you've got set up, you can run Deno lint -- rules, and it'll show you what you've got set up. And these are configurable. You can change them. So if you want a specific way for your code to look, you can absolutely configure them in your Deno.json. I also really love the command Deno lint rules. Like, I kind of want that as a t-shirt, like Deno lint rules. Cool. So let's say then you've linted all your code. Your code is linted great, but you've got some unhinged members of your team who like to write their JavaScript in bizarre ways. So they've written something that looks like this. We have the Deno format tool, which is just going to clean up your code for you. So Deno format is going to, again, you can choose the rules that you want it to format to. So like, I like my brackets to be on the same line as my if statement, for example. You can set the line length of the files that the character length of lines rather, all sorts of things in there. And again, no configuration needed. It just comes out of the box. And again, you can hook this up to your CI pipeline. So if, for example, you're committing to the Deno doc site, you have to make sure that your code is formatted and linted to our standards, which just makes everything nice and easy. Like, we're just trying to make your developer experience easier. And Deno comes with a whole load of APIs for you to use in your projects. So we briefly saw, if we open up the test file here, you'll see we're using Deno.test. That is one of the APIs. We also have a whole load for things like reading files from the file system. We have one for serving. So if you want to make yourself a really quick HTTP server, you can absolutely do that. So why don't we just have a quick look at those now? So let's empty this out here and let's make a new const that we'll call text. And oh, there we go. We're going to there we go. Copilot is on it already. So let's make this new file now called hello.txt. And inside of there, we will say hello React.js Girls. And now again, we can see we haven't used it. So let's just console log text out now. And if we run, we can see we have read text from a file. So that's super cool. And you can stream text from files. You can write text to files as well. So I could do instead, I could say, Copilot, is there already for me. So we now have a text file that's been set up for us. As I mentioned, Deno also has a really cool serve API, so I could do deno.serve. And I'm going to need a, there we go, thank you. And if I run this, listening on localhost, if we open up the browser, there we go. I mean, that could not be faster to set up an HTTP server. Not only that, Deno also supports web APIs. So if you remember the talk from earlier, they were using Axios, but we could be using Fetch. And Fetch is actually built into Deno. So if we want to, we could do const response. In fact, I think I've got this in my, rather than watching me type for ages. So all I've done here is set up a constant. We're going to await a fetch on this URL, and then we're going to console log whatever it is that is on that URL. So let's run that now. And you can see we have a list of dinosaurs. And yeah, so there's a whole bunch of web APIs that are built into Deno. So if you're coming from the web and you're more used to using those web APIs, you will feel like you're in familiar territory in Deno. And Deno also supports Node APIs. So if you're more used to using, for example, Node's FS, you absolutely can do that. So we could, let's see, have I got this in my, yes, I do. Nice. So here we're using this node colon to say, give me the node FS package, and then we're just using it as we normally would. So I can run this. So if you would rather use those node packages that you're more used to, you absolutely can. I personally think this is a worse user experience than the Deno file read, which was one line, but courses for courses, each to your own. One thing that I've not spoken about yet, so each time I've been running Deno run main TS, I can also set up tasks in the same way that you would with your Node projects. So in Deno.json, there is actually a task set up here for me already. So I can, instead of saying Deno run main TS, I could just say Deno run dev. And it's going to do exactly the same thing. And the nice thing is with these tasks, in the same way, again, as you have with Node, you can chain commands together. You can add flags. So here I've got the watch flag, which is going to just watch for any changes in that main TS file. I can also, so I'm sure you all noticed this. So as I was running these commands, I'm getting these little, prompts showing up in the terminal. So let's have a look there. So I don't know if you can read that, but what this is saying is Deno is requesting read access to that particular file. Now, Deno by default doesn't give any of your code access to sensitive APIs. So your file system, your network access, your environment information, all of that is behind this prompt. And the reason why we do this is because we're sort of in the Wild West at the moment with regards to module usage. We're so used to importing modules and using other people's code, but we sometimes don't actually look at that code and we don't know what it does. We don't know whether, as well as doing something helpful to us, it's also sending all of our information across a network to somewhere. And so Deno is trying to keep you safe and keep your code safe by just cutting off access to those things unless you specifically allow it. So I can see here, I have been prompted saying, something wants to access your file system. Do you want to allow that? And I can say yes. So I can say Y to the prompt here, or I can say A to say, like, give this all permissions that it needs. Or what I can do in this task is I can explicitly say, run it with access to everything. So -A is just saying, just stop asking me. I don't care about the permissions. This code is safe. Do what you want. Or I can give it specific access. So in this case, I would want to give it read access. So I would say -- allow read. And that will then, next time I run that command, just go straight through. We don't get the prompt anymore. And yeah, this is just, it's just to keep you safe. If you don't want it, you can turn it off with -A. That was a super quick introduction. I can see some of you are interested, but also, you know, we're using React. We're used to Node. Everything that we do is using Node. Like, how do I even get started with Deno at this point? And I would just like to sort of allay some fears. Like, Deno can absolutely run your Node projects. React works absolutely fine in Deno. And in fact, why don't we create a little React project now? So I can do, and in fact, it's a shame because we're doing a release on Thursday, which is going to make this even more pleasant. But at the moment, this is a bit of a handful to type out. So I can do Deno run -A. So I'm giving the permissions for everything. npm : create Vite at latest. So you should recognize the create Vite command is going to set us up with a Vite project. And all I'm saying here is run that npm package to do that. So sure, we'll call it Vite project. We want a React project with TypeScript. Super, this Wi-Fi is great. So there we go. We've got our project, so we can cd into Vite project. We can run Deno install. I spoke too soon about the Wi-Fi. Come on, you can get there. Which just keeps discovering new packages. Amazing. And this is going to create me a project that has a package JSON. So if we do code, say dot, we can open up this project in here. So I mean, this is a Vite project. You've all seen a Vite project before. We have our node modules file in here. We have our package JSON in here. But I can run Deno, run dev. And Deno is going to do exactly what you would expect Node to do. And we should have, there we go, our React and Vite project set up here. You can edit it exactly as you would in your Node projects, but you now have all of those tools installed, ready to use. So you've got the linter, you've got the formatter, you've got the test runner. They're all just there waiting for you. And your package JSON is absolutely supported. So if you want to keep adding things like dependencies or tasks, the package JSON, instead of using the Deno JSON, you absolutely can. You don't need to change your workflow at all. The only thing that you will have to change, which may also be changing in the future as we're slowly being beaten down about this opinion, but Deno believes that ES modules is the future for JavaScript. We should stop writing in CommonJS now. We should be starting to move all of our code to ES modules. So as it currently stands, your npm packages are all totally supported as long as they are written in ES modules. If they're written in CommonJS, you're going to have to do a bit of work to upgrade them. That may change in the future because a lot of people are like, CommonJS. So, you know, maybe that will change, maybe it won't. We'll see. But yes, that was a super speedy intro to Deno. I hope that this is something that maybe you will try out. Advent of Code is coming up next month, so maybe you could try using Deno for your next project. I hope that you fall in love with it. I am at This Is Joe Frank on all of the socials. I'm on Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, you name it. If you find something that you dislike about Deno, let me know. I would love to feed it back to the team. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you find anything in the docs that you would like to change, also let me know. And yes, I have Deno stickers. If you'd like a sticker, come get one from me.
Does anyone have any questions for Joe?
Thank you. How big is the Deno team, and what's it like working with, like, I'm guessing they're based in America, like but you're actively working on the documentation. What's that like?
So the team is 26 people at the moment. We're very small still, but very dedicated. And because we're an open source project, we also have a lot of very dedicated contributors from around the world. Yeah, it has been very lonely being the only UK employee. But we just hired another UK employee, so there's 2 of us now. So we're the British DevRel team, and I kind of love it. The team are all amazing. You know, working with Ryan Dahl, who's the guy who invented Node, is, I mean, it's incredible being able to like chat to him and get his opinion on the world of JavaScript. And we have a lot of developers on the team who are also on TC39, so they're feeding back into the JavaScript standards as well as, you know, trying to then bring the JavaScript standards into Deno. So yeah, it's such a lovely place to work.
Other questions?
Maybe a silly question, but I'm curious, why Deno? Do you know why Deno?
So there's a whole bunch of different reasons. It's built in Rust, so it's actually faster than Node. The permissions thing, I think, is something that's really interesting. And something that I think all of us need to be taking a little bit more seriously. I personally really like the Deno APIs over the Node APIs. Deno is also, because we're such a small team, we're able to move a little bit faster than Node. So, you know, if you do find something that you don't like, you can feed it back to me. I'll tell the engineering team there will be a change within a week. That just does not happen with Node. And, you know, we all love Node, and I'm not saying that everybody should swap to Deno and there should be a monopoly. Like, having competition is healthy. It's what moves innovation forwards. I think it's really important that we are all trying new things constantly, seeing what we like. A lot of the changes that we're making in Deno do eventually make their way back into Node. So, like, for example, Deno has supported WebSockets for like 5 years now, and Node has finally got WebSockets, so woohoo. And yeah, I think this is how we create innovation. This is how we keep stuff moving forwards.
Cool, thanks.
Any final questions? Yes.
It is a little bit similar, but yeah, I find it very interesting. The clean code, ESLint support, TS TypeScript is fantastic. Yeah, I really liked it. My question is, people are not using Deno as much as Node. So can you explain, is there any reason or any limitations? What is putting the people behind not using it?
So Deno out the gate is 10 years behind. So people had 10 years of experience using Node before Deno was even a sparkle in Ryan's eye. So a lot of people are like, well, I've got this tool. I don't have time to learn a new tool. I don't want to overcomplicate my situation. I've got a situation that already works. Why would I move over? And until recently, Deno is very opinionated on what good code looks like, as you can see. And they were really trying to change the way that Node users are writing their code. And they have sort of backtracked a little bit on that. So things like the full NPM support now, the full support for all of the Node globals, that was something that wasn't available until Deno 2 came out very recently. So a lot of people were like, you know what, I don't want to learn a whole new thing. I'm not touching it. So now I'm here with the message, like, it looks like what you would expect it to look like. It looks a lot like Node. You don't have to learn everything completely from scratch to try out this new cool thing that might make your life better.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I will really try this. Yeah, I liked it too so much.
Excellent. We're going to be running a campaign actually with Advent of Code. So if Advent of Code is something that you do and you do try it out with Deno, we've got a whole bunch of giveaways. So we're going to be giving away stickers. We're going to be giving away swag, merch. There might be a laptop in it if you manage to do all 25 days. Now, I have personally never managed to do all 25 days, but I know there are people out there who do.
We probably have time for one more quick question if anybody's desperate. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Do you have any, like, what's your favorite piece of feedback or like stories from people who have adopted Deno?
Ooh. So I met somebody recently who had used Deno they've made this thing was so cool, right? They built, they liked running murder mystery parties. So they had built an app that allowed them to automate their entire murder mystery party within their house. And because Deno has a whole load of web APIs, they were able to like IoT up their entire house. So like when the murder happened in the murder mystery, the lights in the house slowly started switching off, and they had an internet connected chest that people had to like work out the combination for, and then open up like with their phones by scanning QR code. Because like, yeah, all of these APIs are just built into Deno, and they were like, it was so easy to just build this whole thing. Yeah, super love that.
Nice. Lovely. Can I please have another round of applause for all three of our amazing speakers that we had this evening? Amazing. Thank you. So some thank yous for the evening. Thank you to justeattakeaway.com and the team, Isabella, Jessica, Michelle. There's a woman who's already left who I've forgotten her name. And of course, Emma, thank you for your talk. You guys have been amazing hosts, and we're so lucky to have this venue and this space. Thank you also to YLD for organizing the event. We know how much logistics and things go into organizing sponsors and speakers. So thank you to the team who have put all the effort into that. Thank you, of course, to all of our speakers. We have Joe, we have Jane, and we have Emma. Your talks were all amazing, really thought out, and thank you for going through all of the questions and bearing with my technical issues, of course. And thank you finally to our audience. This community wouldn't be what it is without you, so we're really grateful for all of you for coming out tonight in the rain in London and sticking with us through everything. Please, as always, keep coming. It means the world to us that you're here. Hopefully I haven't forgot anyone on the thank yous. Please remember to follow us on social media for future events and latest news and things. YLD is always on the lookout for new talent and exciting projects, so feel free to get in touch with us if you've got any questions. We are also always looking for speakers and sponsors. So if you want to do a talk, or if you work at a company that has a great venue that you would like to organize hosting as a meetup, we would love to hear from you. So even if it's just an initial chat, please do reach out and the team would love to talk to you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is our final ReactJS Girls meetup of the year, but we have our first one for next year already planned. It will be held at Monzo's London office on the 4th of February. So stay tuned for sign up details for that one. And we hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please head to the Conductor Pub, which is when you walk outside, it's right across. You can't miss it. I believe if you all take a moment and look under your seat, somebody has a winning card attached to the bottom of their seat. So if everyone has a look underneath it, somebody will have something. If no one finds it, look at any empty seats next to you, just in case. Keep looking. If there's a coat on any chairs or laptops, don't tip it over, but there should be a card somewhere under one of these chairs. We know it's there, unless somebody took it and ran away with it. It is only like a postcard size, so I guess it might not hit you in the face.
No one is sitting. That's the secret. So you kind of look into the chair to the center.
Hey, we found it. Amazing. If you head to Victoria in the green jumper, she will hand her the prize over to you. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. Grab a slice of pizza on your way out and join everybody else at the conductor. And yes,
One last thing, if you can leave the lanyards on the kitchen island where the pizzas are, that would be great. Thank you.
that was in my notes that I forgot. Thanks, everyone.